Thank you very much, Quebec, and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the webinar on the organization of work, major issues, and the high-level segment of the ordinary and extraordinary meetings of the COPs in 2013. We have structured this today's webinar in 4 parts, and the first 3 parts contain the most information. Part 4, we provide you with further contact points should you have questions that you can pose, of course, to me as the presenter, to my colleagues, the other coordinators, but also in terms of traveling and high-level segment. Part 1, just an overview, is on the organization of work and the practical arrangements. The second part will introduce briefly the major issues that the COPs and the ExCOPs intend to discuss, and the third part, the high-level segment. I will start now with part 1. As regards the organization of work, the Bureau, as you are aware, met last year on 13th and 14th December and agreed on a number of things. First, the Bureau agreed that the meetings, the COPs and the ExCOPs, will take place from Sunday 28 April to Friday 10 May in 2013. And also the Bureau meeting agreed on the schedule of the 2 weeks, and I will come to that in a second. The third really important discussion was, and agreement was, the high-level segment that will take place on 9 to 10 May. Before continuing on that slide, I would like to switch now and introduce the schedule of work of the 2 weeks. We would like to note that this schedule of work has been shared with all parties and others on the website, so this is it's been posted. Nevertheless, since this is really the first time that we intend to hold the COPs and ExCOP meetings back-to-back in the same venue over a 2 weeks period, I think it is useful to go through this document and explain the setting and the organization of work. First, and I'm putting my pointer here, first we start in the morning on Sunday 28 April with the opening of the 3 ordinary COP meetings, which will be followed immediately by a session on the extraordinary meetings of the COPs. In the morning session, you know, there are quite some a number of agenda items to be covered, so the timing is crucial. On the first morning, what will happen is we also open the 3 ExCOP meetings. So just for clarification, we have 6 meetings open, and then go into the adoption of the agenda, discuss organizational matters and credential, a very important topic that we will touch upon later on, and then go into the substantive items of the agenda. And here, just to name a few, we talk about the review of arrangements and the reviews that be undertaken by the Secretariat as well as by UNEP and FAO. We talk about the proposal for the organization of the Secretariats, about joint activities and budget for joint activities. I will come to this point later on because there's a proposal to also include in here the budget for the ordinary COPs. And the last point here, the UNEP consultative process and the outcomes. Then this is followed by another session of the ordinary COPs in which all 3 COPs adopt their agendas. And now here in the afternoon session on Sunday, we enter into what we call simultaneous sessions of the ordinary meetings of all 3 COPs. And this is a meeting and a session that intends to benefit from certain topics being discussed in a harmonized and concise manner in order to also allow for cross-fertilization and a discussion across the 3 conventions. And in the afternoon session, we will deal here with Those matters related to the implementation of the convention, dealing with, on one side, technical assistance for all three conventions, Basel and Rotterdam. I will scroll down a bit. And financial resources under the Stockholm and Basel conventions, as well as resource mobilization and financial resources under the Basel Convention. So here these items will be introduced in one go, and then the discussion will focus on these items. Here for technical assistance, we start as it is the practice in past COPs with this item, and then later on financial resources. On Monday, the 29th April, there will be two additional simultaneous sessions. First, dealing with legal compliance and governance matters under the Basel and non-compliance under the Stockholm and Rotterdam Convention. The similar setting will apply here as well. Those items will be introduced in one go, and the plenary will have the chance to discuss these items in a more harmonized way. This is the first time that this will be happening in the history of the COPs. In the afternoon, we will switch to, on one side, reporting and under the Basel and Stockholm Convention, and then measures to reduce and eliminate releases from waste under Stockholm, as well as technical guidelines only on POPs in that sense under the Basel Convention. So these are the topics that are covered under the simultaneous sessions of the ordinary COPs. Once on Monday this is, has been finalized, we start with the first session of the ordinary COPs, and here we start with the Stockholm Convention. I will not go too much into detail what has been covered here. Participants to the webinar are invited to download this document and familiarize themselves with. Then Stockholm Convention will last from Tuesday 30 April to Thursday 2nd May, which will then be followed by the ordinary sessions of the Basel Convention from Friday 3 May, Saturday 4 May, and then going into the second week on Monday 6 May. Just to note that on Sunday 5 May, no formal meetings are scheduled, so it's a day of rest. After Basel Convention, then the Rotterdam Convention will meet. The sessions will last for 3 days. On the last day in the afternoon, there will be a high-level segment. I have to note that there will be further changes to the schedule of work which have been discussed with, on one side, the three COP presidents and the Bureau. There are minor changes in the way we present here the high-level segment and some more information on what the high-level segment will contain. And I will come to this later on. In principle, then, we have on Friday, 10 May, another session of the high-level segment. Again, also its display and the sequence will change slightly, but we have an ExCOP session then in the morning session, and in the afternoon session we have basically the adoption of the reports and the closure of all meetings. This is in a nutshell the schedule of work. Of course, I can imagine there are many further questions, and please feel free to ask them later on during the webinar or by email. I will now go back to the presentation themselves. As I mentioned, the Bureau meeting, the joint Bureau meeting on 13 and 14 December decided on these issues, but also on the venue. Of course, it will take place in Geneva in the International Conference Center, CICG. For those that are participating frequently, they know where this is. On 27 April, on the Saturday before the start of the meetings, as usual, there are preparatory meetings scheduled. On one side, there will be a Bureau meeting from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. There will be regional meetings from 3 to 6, and pre-meetings of the small intersessional working group. This is to be decided. I would like to continue on the organization of work, and I think this slide is just a note that here the Bureau will be in charge of the daily schedule. And we are saying this because the meeting itself will be 2 weeks. This is just really a new model, so it is really important to note that the Bureau will meet on a daily basis and plan and schedule the meetings along the days that the meeting lasts. So there can be changes. If there are any changes, as usual, the schedule will be posted daily every morning on the intranet site, and of course also communicated in regional group meetings. Just for all participants that take part of the meetings, as mentioned before, the order and timing of any of the sessions may change, and we advise anybody participating to take into account this circumstance when planning the travel. We have noted in other documents that possibly delegates should take into account a 24-hour rule for before and after, but we would also like to note that all 6 meetings will be open throughout the 2 weeks period. That means that also, for instance, for Stockholm Convention related measures, any decisions that are not taken during the first 3 days in the first week, that those decisions would be taken up and taken then on the last day of the meeting on Friday. So this is just an important note that can happen. It much depends on how fast and how effective the work will unfold. As a matter then, as a consequence, we would highly encourage regional groups to work through the Bureau members in order to provide information. As again, the Bureau will be basically the central node on steering the meetings, so regional groups are encouraged to work through their members. As we have also mentioned in basically all the documents, so far we really look into having only a limited number of contact groups running in parallel in order to really also allow any delegates and early delegation, also small in number, to participate in the discussions at the COPs. This is a note also on the organization of work. Of course, we will provide a secretariat with the IT infrastructure. It will be, again, a paperless meetings. That means that work in the contact groups, but also in plenary and CRCs, will be put into the intranet of the meeting. But we also use now more and more social media to facilitate communication among the delegates, among which also is an approach to use Twitter. And I have put here on the website the Twitter page. For those who know how to use Twitter and using it, it will be straightforward. For those that do not use Twitter, we invite you to just type in the Twitter, get familiarized, because that will be certainly very interesting and a very immediate way of communicating. As regards the pre-registration, a little bit of statistics. We have so far 972 registrations, 656 representatives from 184 parties. We have 3 non-parties. On the funding, this is also has been communicated to parties at the beginning of the year. Funding is for 1 representative per convention for which an eligible party or country is a party. That means we provide funding for up to 3 representatives. So far, we have received and approved funding for 237 persons and representatives. We have contacted them and we are finalizing the procedure. Those are for participants from eligible countries that have submitted their application before the deadline of 28 January, which is 6 weeks before the meetings. There is another group that includes 58 representatives that have submitted their application for funding after that deadline. We will start soon with looking into the funding arrangements for this group. We have in here 26 parties, 6 African countries, 12 from Asia, 3 countries from Central and Eastern Europe, and 3 countries from RULAC. There is a little bit of an update, of course, on the HLS, on the high-level segment. I will come to that later. Moving on, this is also a very important point. We have presented or given this webinar presentation several times now, and credential was always an important aspect, and therefore it is worth to spend some time on that. Credential in principle needs to be presented for representatives who will constitute the delegation of country and to the meetings of those conventions to which the country is a party. So these are the basic principles. It has to be issued by the head of state or government, by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And an important, well, we have in fact 6 meetings, basically the 3 ordinary COPs and the 3 simultaneous extraordinary COPs. So, in fact, in order to save paper and time, delegates are also encouraged to present credentials for all 6 meetings in one document. And at that point in time, I would like to just quickly change and switch to the template of the credentials. This is available on request. We are happy to provide this. We have sent it out also in a communication, but this is the template as it should be presented. Needless to say, of course, that the submission of advanced copies of the credential will greatly facilitate the clearance process. But nevertheless, and this has been, of course, the practice and is set out in the rules of procedure, the originals are to be submitted not later than 24 hours after the opening of the meetings, which is by 10 a.m. on 29 April 2013. This slide is also important in terms of the organization of the meetings. And here we would like just to know that several decisions are to be taken in order for nominations of parties for certain subsidiary bodies. And to start with, here parties are encouraged, and this is an important thing, of course, as it has been the practice in previous meetings, to consult in the regions on the following nominations of officers and members. We have for the Bureau of the Basel, Rotterdam, and Stockholm Conventions, in total 5 new members to be nominated officers. For the Basel, 5 officers for Rotterdam, and 10 for the Stockholm Convention COPs. For POPROC, we have 17 members that should be nominated. CRC, also 17 members. The OAWG would have 5 officers newly nominated, and the ICC 5 members. Just to note that information packages have been sent in January to all contact points on behalf of the Bureau members, with a copy to permanent missions. Then here, just some more information. The meetings website is on synergiespop.int. This includes the schedule of work for the 2 weeks meetings, an overview on meeting documents. Here, just also note that agendas and meeting documents are available here. On that note, we are glad to inform you that we could reduce, in applying synergies and harmonizing the preparation process, we could reduce the total numbers of pages of meeting documents from formerly 1,860 at the 2010-11 COPs to now 526. This also includes and results in a significant reduction of costs, of course, because translation costs can be saved. At that point in time, I would like just to show you the meeting website. So here, this is the meeting website. You will see this is the Synergies POPs.int website over here. If you click on that tab here, you will get on one side on the overview. I will load this page. And as we talk here, the schedule of the meetings are available at that link here. You can download them. And going back on the documents here, if you click on that button here, you will come directly to the documents website. Over here, and you see the INF documents available for all 4 meetings. I will now switch to the major issues, and I will speed up because it will be also taking some time. The major issues for Basel Convention COP11 on one side is here, the first bullet point, the follow-up to the Indonesian Swiss country-led initiative, or the CLI initiative. Here we consider for adoption a framework for the ESM of hazardous waste and other waste, and also a glossary of terms used in the convention. Moreover, Basel COP11 will consider technical guidelines too, the 2 main ones on transparent movement of e-waste and the environmentally sound management of POPs and potential follow-up activities. Also, at Basel COP11, there will be a consideration for adoption of amendments of Annex 9 of the Convention. These include some listing of specific types of waste in that annex. Also, the outcomes of the 9th meeting of the ICC, and also consideration of the PACE program and possible revisions to guidance on environmentally sound management of used and end-of-life computing equipment. Then also here at the last bullet point, a review of technical assistance program, including regional and coordinating centers. For Rotterdam Convention, COP6 will look into the possible addition of 5 chemicals and 1 severely hazardous pesticide formulation, including tricytyl asbestos. Consider further the adoption of a non-compliance mechanism, and also proposals to improve information exchange on exports and export notifications. COP6 will also review proposals to increase the number of notifications of final regulatory action and guidance to assist parties in their preparation. And also, as it will take the case for the Basel Convention, a review of the technical assistance program. Stockholm Convention will look into the possible addition of hexabrommocyclododecane to Annex A of the Convention, and consider further for adoption a non-compliance mechanism similar to Rotterdam Convention. It will also consider further for adoption of a revised framework for evaluating the effectiveness of the Convention, the continued need for DDT for disease vector control, as well as also for adoption a process for evaluating the continued need of specific exemptions and acceptable purposes for 2 substances. These are BDEs and PFOS. Then also review the recommendations and conclusions from POPROC on DDT alternatives, as well as alternatives to endosulfan and PFOS in open application. On the Stockholm Convention regional centers, it will consider also for adoption the evaluation methodology and re-endorse regional centers endorsed at COP4 and endorse a new nominated center. As regards the financial mechanism, there are a couple of decisions to be taken. First of all, the review of the assessment of funding needs of the convention and of developing countries and transition economy countries for the period 2015 to 19. Then the third review of the financial mechanism, as well as guidance to the financial mechanism. On the National Implementation Plan, the COP6 will take note of the NIPS updates guidance, a feasibility study for revising NIPS and the deadlines for transmitting those revised NIPS, and also look into the reporting format pursuant to Article 15. And as it has been the case for the two other conventions, also review the technical assistance program. Then finally, the major issues of ExCOP 2. We went through them briefly before. There's on one side the review of the impact of the arrangements put in place pursuant to the synergy decisions in 2011 and 2010, the omnibus decision here. Then also a full proposal for the modification of the organization of the Secretariat, the formerly 3 Secretariat. And that also includes the possible continuation of the joint head function, with the caveat that this should be cost neutral in respect of the adopted operating budgets of the 3 conventions, and also a decision on the sustainability of the Secretariat and also the continuity of its operations. Then, as I have mentioned before, we also look at the ExCOPs into the program of work and budget for all 3 conventions. And this approach has been chosen since joint activities are now an integral part of the program of works for all 3 conventions. It was felt necessary to basically not present them in a, let's say, separated matter, but include them in one single document. This has been put online some weeks ago within the deadlines on the website. As usual, the program of work and budget include 3 scenarios: a 0 nominal increase, a 5% increase, an executive secretary scenario. Then also include joint activities, which are then presented as an integral part of the consolidated budget document, but also presenting as part of the 3 single COPs, the separate COPs, individual budgets. These are also available on the Stockholm, Rotterdam, and Basel Convention websites. The last point on the ExCOPs agenda is the outcome of the UNEP's Executive Director's consultative process on financing options for chemicals and wastes. And a couple of slides on the high-level segment. As mentioned before, the high-level segment will take place on Thursday, 9 May, and the morning of Friday, 10th May. The Joint Bureau has agreed to hold it. The objectives of this segment is to, on one side, raise ministers' awareness on chemicals and waste issues in general, but also encourage further synergies among ministries at the national level. And of course, since we have now more than 80 ministers currently and deputy ministers being registered for that event, elevate in general the profile of chemicals in national development agendas, and also to provide an opportunity for ministers to share experience and best practices in their countries. Invitation letters have been sent to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Agriculture, Environment and Health. Copies were also sent to the permanent missions in Geneva and Rome. Funding has been made available for 1 minister or deputy minister from each eligible country that is a party to at least 1 convention. Requests for financial assistance were to be submitted by 9 February 2013, and as of yesterday, we had 78 ministers. As of today, we have 80. And of course, ministers or equivalent ranks. In terms of the process, in order for coming up with the objectives and the organization of the high-level segment, there have been consultations taking place, and a small group of the Bureau from the 3 convention is working with the Secretariat on the agenda of the high-level segment and its structure. And here there are the members of the small groups. I will not read them out. In terms of the arrangements, well, in line with the discussions of the Joint Bureau, the theme of the HLS will focus on synergistic implementation of the 3 convention at all 3 levels, at the national, regional, and global levels. Then the small HLS Bureau Group worked with the Secretariat on the development of the structure and the content of the discussion. This will be contained in an INF document. This is contained in ExCOP document INF 3. As mentioned, financial resources have been made available, and additional ministers may participate at their own expense. A bit on the structure and the schedule of work. We presented it in your schedule of work. You may have still a version that does not include the outcomes of this work of the small group. So just here for your information, the Thursday afternoon we'll see the opening of the high-level segment, and then following ministerial roundtables in the, as we plan it right now, in the Varumbe Center next to the CSDG. This will also include ministerial photos, which is followed then by a ministerial ceremony on the ban amendment and ministerial working dinner hosted by Switzerland, as we have heard now in the Intercontinental Hotel. Then on Friday morning at 10 May, the key messages will be presented in plenary again in the CSDG, emerging from the discussions at the roundtable. This discussion will be moderated by the Secretariat, and what we envisage is an adoption of a ministerial declaration. This has been proposed by Switzerland. This is basically the end of my presentation. As mentioned before, I will present here on that last slide, Secretariat contact points. This is Mrs. Stephanie Cadet for any questions on registration and credential. You will see her email address after her name. And for the high-level segment, the focal points in the Secretariat are Ms. Laura Messaros, also with her contact details. And for registrations and travel arrangements for the high-level segment, these are our colleagues in Rome, Ms. Blanca Garcia del Antonio and Ms. Ima Roda Martin. With this, I am at the end of the presentation. I thank you very much for your attention and look forward to hearing your questions.